The appropriately named Mel Minnow of Common Sense Media calls this high-tech remake dumb and overblown. But Michael Wilmington of the Chicago Tribune rebuts by noting that the movie makers succeed in something very difficult, creating a haunted house with real personality and terror. And the Philadelphia Inquirer's Desmond Ryan falls somewhere in the middle by calling this film a passable piece of summer hokum, but it underlines how difficult it has become to make an effective horror movie. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, the next installment of January, celebrating the films of cinematographer and director Jan de Bont, we decide the fate of The Haunting.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters.
Spooky.
That was, I don't know. That went from being spooky to being like Dr. Smith on the old Lost in Space.
Yes. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. Welcome to Ruined Childhoods. My name is John. That guy's name is Dan.
That it is.
Yeah, and this is a podcast where we talk about cult and classic movies and what we would do given the chance to bring them back these days. And say, hey, how do you do? What do we got to do to you?
Cult, classics, has-beens, never-weres, could-have-beens.
Could-have-beens.
We talk about them all.
Yeah, I feel like The Haunting is one that doesn't really fall too much into either of those real categories, but it's definitely, I feel like it's so bad it's funny kind of a thing, and so I feel like it has some redeeming qualities in that department.
Well,
I think it just kind of like was made at the wrong time,
and we'll get into it, but I mean, yes, and yeah,
improv.
It's also. But yes, it was. We'll get into it a little bit more. But I would definitely say some missed opportunities here. But also,
Yeah.
I guess the question is The Haunting so bad it's good to the level where it's worth watching the whole thing for the entertainment value? And we'll get into that. We don't need to talk about that right now. But just to let you know. Just let you know, discussion topic to come.
Okay.
Does this movie have enough awful to be awfully fun?
And I have gone on record in the past stating that there is no such thing as a bad movie because people earned paychecks working on this. Lots of, look at the credits on the end of any movie. You'll see a lot of people who worked really hard, and for that, it was worth being made. And it's hard to get a movie made in general, unless you're Jan de Bont, in which case you make The Haunting. But first, we've got some little news bits in the world of remakes, reboots, prequels, and sequels. It seems like there's going to be a soap dish series coming to Paramount. And this is from Slash Film a few days ago, and I'm just going to read one paragraph from it. After a failed remake attempt in 2011, the project is now part of the NAACP's production partnership with CBS Studios, formally launched with the hire of Sheila Ducksworth as president. And that's a partnership that is meant to bring more equity to, casts and crews, and I think that's really cool. So they're starting this this whole like bond between the two organizations kind of began with like a mutual love of the show or the movie Soap Dish, which is like, yeah, of course, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And this article also definitely calls out the fact that it is a perfect movie with the exception of the transphobia at the end, which we certainly cover on our Soap Dish episode. But they're saying that a Dynasty meets Succession family saga following a fifth-generation Black New York City female construction magnate. So I don't know exactly how this is going to shape up, but I am curious.
So soap dish, like not not a reboot of Soap the TV series, but Soap Dish the
Nope.
movie, and it's about.
I'm telling you.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. So we will see what that's about. This one is kind of going back a couple episodes. You know, we talked a lot about Sharon Stone on our Basic Instinct episode, and it kind of, you know, we got into talking about how her career really was, you know, blown up because of Basic Instinct, and she's kind of had little moments here or there, but nothing so significant, with few exceptions. But it looks like she's signed on to become a recurring role on season 2 of The Flight Attendant on HBO, which I think is excellent. I don't know if, Dan, you watched the first season of The Flight Attendant, but it is fantastic. It was really good.
Yeah, I haven't, but you know, that's kind of something I like about a lot of these shows, is that they're providing a lot of opportunities to actors who, like Sharon Stone, who had a really flourishing career and that has slowed down. I noticed Showtime has a new I think it's an anthology series, and the first part of it is about the CEO of Uber with Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
Right.
and I noticed Uma Thurman in the trailer for it, and very happy to see Uma Thurman
For sure.
back on screen.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we know how much you love My Super Ex-Girlfriend, so
I mean, you know, there's movies and then there are experiences that go beyond the screen. And I would have to say, for me, the big three, are 2001: A Space Odyssey, Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life, and Ivan Reitman's My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
Okay.
All right. I picked two. I was like, okay, so
I thought The Tree of Life was an interesting addition to that
because
one.
it's I think it's the only movie that I've ever gone to see where like a manager at the theater, like someone has actually like given a speech before the movie started, and it was cool because I saw it at the.
What did they say?
Oh, it was like the theater was packed. I think it was like the opening night. It was in New York. It was at a theater down on the Lower East Side, like an art house, but like a, nicer one. And they actually they gave kind of just like hey, we're really excited to have Terrence Malick's the Tree of Life. And, I mean, it wasn't like a just a warning. Like there was, it wasn't
like,
it wasn't a trigger warning.
Hang in there.
Yeah.
It's just like, just hang in there.
Yeah.
What's funny is I remember the circumstances under which I saw The Tree of Life.
Interesting.
Listeners of this podcast will know that Dan has the recall of I don't know, what's the opposite of a goldfish? Something that has really good recall.
An elephant? I don't know.
An elephant, sure. I don't know. Is that proven?
Animals?
Is that a proven thing, or is that just
forgets.
lore?
It's an adage.
I know it's an adage, but like, is that an actual thing, or is that just lore?
Next time I am chatting with the local elephants, I will double check with them and ask. I've always assumed it's never come up in conversation, but I will bring this up. I hope it's not a sore subject for them.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so yeah, but I am not one to typically remember the circumstances under which I saw most movies, but there are some that stick out, and I would say that it's odd that The Tree of Life sticks out for me, because that was what, like 2010 maybe?
2011, I think.
2011.
Yeah,
and so we're talking over 10 years ago, and I saw it in Pasadena at one of the Laemmle theaters, and I believe I went with my friend Tom.
From MySpace?
Yeah, Tom,
your MySpace friend?
He's kind of like looking over his shoulder the entire time.
Yeah.
He sat in the row in front of me.
What do you think? What do you think about this?
Yeah.
What's with the dinosaurs?
No, my buddy Tom Sigsby, who owns a bar in the Eagle Rock neighborhood of Los Angeles called The Fable. So if you are a Los Angeles resident, go to get a drink at the Fable and see if Tom's there and be like, hey, what'd you think of the movie The Tree of Life? And have a conversation.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'll shout out I wanted to double check and see if the theater where I saw it was actually still open. And that is formerly the Landmark Sunshine Cinema on East Houston Street.
Landmark Sunshine.
Yeah.
Do 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 do.
Gonna see the Tree of Life.
Next up
Gonna
in the
see
news,
it with my future wife. Which I did.
Next thing in the news, we've got also from Slash Film, Hulu comedy series Reboot is officially happening and Judy Greer has joined the cast. So Greer will join Keegan-Michael Key and Johnny Knoxville in the comedy series which follows, it says no joke, the cast of an early 2000s sitcom that is forced to reunite when Hulu orders a reboot of the show. So it is kind of like in the spirit of like Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Right.
You know,
but it also
something
it sounds a little bit like one of our soap dish
oh, absolutely,
reboot ideas.
That's right. Yeah. And then the next thing I have is from Deadline. Eileen Jones tapped to pen Paramount's To Catch a Thief reboot starring Gal Gadot. So that one people might have heard more about because she's certainly a high profile star. And To Catch a Thief is one that certainly a lot of people might feel like their childhood may be ruined. Maybe some of the much older folks who are around.
While we're
children in 55.
Well, and actually, you know what I noticed today, and this is I was thinking about it. I was very surprised that The Manchurian Candidate was remade. This is back in the 2000s. And it was Jonathan Demme directed with Denzel Washington, like Liev Schreiber and Meryl Streep. And it was like, that's one of those movies kind of similar to Catch a Thief, where it's like, the original is still kind of known and loved, and it hasn't been.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like often the best remakes that aren't just re-adaptations of books or plays are the remakes of movies that, kind of have been swept aside and have been forgotten.
Yeah. I mean, you have a really good point. I think that Manchurian Candidate, I think that they just saw it as an opportunity to modernize it because it's, and honestly, it was essentially remade again with Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Right.
So, so it's like one of those things that, I don't know, there's always new ways to tell that same story and kind of incorporate those same ideas.
I mean, it's a great story, but it's so hard to match the Frankenheimer original from 60.
Frankenheimer. Yeah. I mean, forget it. The remake, I enjoyed it. It's fine.
Yeah. But I don't know. Anyway, sorry. It was just like I remember.
No, but it's a good point.
I recalled its existence and questioned it. But yeah. There we go.
So, Dan, we are in the middle. We're past the halfway point of January. How are you feeling?
Is January? Yeah, I'm feeling a bit Janish. Not Janosh, but Janish.
From Ghostbusters 2?
No, yes, from Ghostbusters. Do you know another Janosh?
I was just like, is he referencing Ghostbusters 2?
Peter
McNichol's character.
I said Janish, and that was what I pictured. Anyway, John, you know what? It's mid-January. It's 2022, or as I've been calling it, 2020 Part 3. And it's crazy for those who are listening for the first time. I am also a teacher, and it's just been so challenging to keep up with absences and staff absences and people who are absent because they're quarantined because they had a contact versus people who are absent because they tested positive for COVID, and people who are absent because they they are choosing to, and they're just like not comfortable being in school. So, and it was so, and we got to a point where it was just like so, and like you could tell, like kids are nervous about it, and they're teenagers have enough going on already. On top of and this on top of everything else. So as I think I told you this past week, by the end of the week in school, I just decided I was like, screw it, we're putting on a movie. We're just putting on a movie, and I'm like, you don't have to write anything down. You have to do anything. There's not gonna be a test. We're not gonna not gonna analyze it. Like I was like, your assignment is to like detach from reality, and we watched Sister Act.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and like so. Such good movies too. And I mean, like I had one kid who walked in, and most of the kids haven't seen it. There were like maybe 2 or 3 in each class that had seen it, and I had one kid who walked in and saw the menu screen of the DVD up on my computer and was like, are we seriously watching Sister Act? Like, are we like, this was the best day ever for her? And I was like, that
there is an episode of Queer Eye on Netflix, and Dan, I tried to find this clip to send to you when you told me over text that you were showing your kids Sister Act, and there's this one episode, I want to say it's like maybe in the Philadelphia season, where Jonathan Van Ness, the hair and beauty whatever queer figure on the show. They are describing the whole plot of Sister Act and Sister Act 2 to this girl who had never heard of it before as they're doing her hair, and it's so good.
Did we talk about that during the Sister Act episode?
Oh, maybe we did. Maybe we did. But the way that they describe everything is like, it's completely spot on, and but just like the speed with which they talk about it is just mind-boggling and just glorious. And Jonathan Van Ness also had that web series Gay of Thrones, where they just recapped Game of Thrones while doing people's hair, and
I would definitely listen to that.
It's so good. So anyway, yes, it's January. We are talking about the films of Jan de Bont, cinematographer, at least in terms of Basic Instinct, and then director of Twister, last week's episode, and this week's episode, The Haunting. And for anybody who hasn't been listening to the other episodes of January, what we're doing is we are dropping hints throughout the episode of what the next episode's movie is gonna be. So listen very closely. We haven't done it yet on this one.
No, not yet, because
not yet.
Forgot.
So Dan,
yes,
had you seen The Haunting before?
I had not seen The Haunting. I had seen like parts of it. I think just from like turning it on and say, oh, this is on. Let's watch 5 minutes of this. And so no, had never seen it before. And yep, this was the first time. Had you seen it before?
I had not seen it. I only remembered about it when we were talking about covering it. And then when I saw like the poster for it or something, I was just like, okay, yeah, I think so. I think that seems familiar. I mean, it was 99. So you have movies like The Matrix that are out. You've got, was Blair Witch 99?
Everything. In 99, summer 99, Phantom Menace, love it or hate it, like forget it.
It was huge. It was
huge, humongous. So you had that. You had Austin Powers' Spy Who Shagged Me, which was huge. Yeah, Blair Witch, which kind of like picked up steam over that summer, I remember.
Yeah.
You had Arlington Road, for some reason, is another movie that sticks out. I know it wasn't like the biggest blockbuster of that year. Entrapment.
Yes.
I think also with Sean Connery,
Catherine Zeta-Jones,
and and
laser beams,
and yes, laser beams. I'm pretty.
What's so funny?
Sure, that was that.
Dan, year. I want to cover that movie on the podcast sometime, because it is known for a single shot
that's in the trailer
where Catherine Zeta-Jones is slithering around these like sensor lasers.
It's
and
it's
it
on
is
the
such
poster.
It's on the
The gimmick
poster.
is on the poster.
Yeah, we're talking Scream 5 style. The killer is on the poster. They have the lasers on the poster because it was such a big selling point.
That it was Catherine Zeta-Jones in like some skin tight leather like
Yeah.
like pseudo Catwoman outfit.
It's yoga pants.
Yoga. Oh right, sorry. Yeah, it's Lululemon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've never seen that, so I would be
No.
more than happy to.
Maybe we could do like a theme month of movies that are only known because of like one shot.
Oh, I thought you were going to say maybe next January we would do Seanuary. Movies with Sean Connery. We can't do Sean Penn, and we've already done The Game, so
I know.
Yeah, I don't know how we would start the.
Well, but also if we're doing the first episode of January, it has to be a Michael Douglas thriller,
like a Michael Douglas thriller. Okay, yeah. So
if we're going with our annual routine.
Yeah, no, I was about to, and I was like, wait a second, was Sean Young in Fatal Attraction? No,
no.
So anyway, so The
we'll
Haunting,
figure it out.
summer of 1999. I could keep going. South Park, Bigger, Longer, Uncut is summer of 99. Right. Like this is just off the top of my head, but if I go onto,
is that a Haunting reference to Owen Wilson's character?
Well, no, I'm not that clever.
I can't believe that I thought of that. Ladies and gentlemen, he gets decapitated.
Yeah, he gets decapitated
in a hilarious way.
None the worse off for it. But yes, anyway, the point of the story is The Haunting comes out, but it was one of like the most hyped movies because it was like it was DreamWorks and like
right.
And it was originally, I mean, it started as a collaboration between Spielberg and Stephen King, who were looking. Yeah. So actually, it started as a short novel by Shirley Jackson of The Lottery fame. And if you read anything in high school, you read that. And it was The Haunting of Hill House, and then. Yeah. There is also there's The Haunting in 1963 with Robert Wise directed.
Right, but the plots aren't. That one's about like a family whose house is haunted, or
well, I think that's
something
the
like
original. I think that's the original story because there's also The Haunting of Hill House Netflix series,
right?
Which is
also different from.
It's about a group of siblings, know, kind of dealing with the.
I think that one is more closely tied to the 60s film,
and I think the novel as well.
Yeah. The 99 Haunting definitely seemed to take a lot of liberties with the whole Hill House situation, and I don't know. It's its own thing, and I think that there's some things about it that I like, some things I don't. But why don't I do a little synopsis so that everyone else can be following along?
Yeah.
Okay. Yonda Bont's The Haunting. Under the guise of a sleep study, Dr. David Morrow is luring sleep-challenged individuals to a notoriously creepy mansion to study the psychological response to fear. Among the group that signs on is sexy bisexual temptress Theo, sporty bro Luke, and our protagonist, Nell. Of the three, Nell is the only one who was contacted directly to participate in the study. Having been emotionally abused for years by her ailing mother, Nell has recently been displaced by her siblings after their now-deceased mother failed to award her apartment where she lived her entire life. As the group arrives at the house, along with Dr. Morrow and his research assistants, things slowly begin to go awry, especially with Nell. That's when the stories come out about the house's original owner, Hugh Crane, who wanted to fill the house with children, but had no successful pregnancies with his wife Renee. With the assistance of spooky apparitions, Nell is led to previously undiscovered areas of the house, including Crane's secret office, which contained proof of child labor in his textile factories, often resulting in fatalities. Among her findings, Nell also discovers that Crane had a second wife, Carolyn, and in time it becomes clear to Nell that she is a descendant of Carolyn's and that she was brought there for a reason, to help free the deceased children's souls out of purgatory to ascend to heaven. But in order to do so, she must send Crane's limbo-residing soul down to hell. Did I get that right?
I think so.
So
as much as it matters, yes.
Yeah, so Lily Taylor is Nell, and she's great. I think that she's fantastic always. Teaming up with her high fidelity co-star Catherine Zeta-Jones, the two of whom both dated Rob, the the owner of the record store. No, so Catherine Zeta-Jones plays Theo. Liam Neeson is David Morrow. Owen Wilson is Luke Sanderson. Luke Sanderson, wow.
Playing a character named Luke. I've got a brother named Luke. This is crazy.
Todd Field plays Todd. Virginia Madsen's in it for a scene. I was like, oh, Virginia Madsen's in this. And then we never see her again.
Yeah.
And then so the house's caretakers are Mr. and Mrs. Dudley, played by Bruce Dern and Marion Seldes. Bruce Dern is fantastic. I feel like it's essentially his character from like The Burbs.
It's his character from like 75% of the movies he has done since 1980.
Yeah, there's kind of like, from like 1980 to 2000, let's say. That was that character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a really solid cast. It's a great like 1999 cast. And I love seeing Lily Taylor in like kind of the lead role. And I mean, it works so well with the story for this to be a female driven plot. And I think that's kind of cool. Also, you have to imagine that the actors were probably very comfortable because they're wearing pajamas most of the time. So that's kind of cool. The great pajama work on this movie.
Yeah, I mean, excellent pajama. Maybe there's another theme for us, movies that are where the characters are just mostly in their pajamas the whole time.
Back to the Beach.
There we go. Pajama Party. Yes. Oh, we did that one already.
Yes, we did.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
All right. Here's my thoughts. First of all, I feel there is terrible dialogue so terrible that at moments it goes into that, oh, this is actually entertaining territory.
Right. Okay.
And the acting in this, it feels like I'm watching this movie and I feel like Jan de Bont was not a good fit for this. Jan de Bont was not a good fit for it, and the effects are just, I don't want to say silly, but
99 was the wrong time for this. Right. Yeah, at least with something like Twister a few years earlier, and also with Speed, you do a lot more with practical effects. And the computer generated effects weren't there yet with this.
Okay, but so I want to point to another haunted house movie that comes out 2 years after this that, I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time, but spectacular. The Others. I really have a great memory of really feeling like The Others did so much with editing, cinematography, and movement. Also, the same summer of '99, The Sixth Sense, which not a haunted house movie, but still doesn't use really special effects. Uses music and camera, but also acting.
Right. Yeah, this movie though is it's a supernatural sensationalist movie where there are like battles with ghosts, and I don't know. I just think that it was made at the wrong time. 99 just wasn't the right time for something like this. Or they could have tried to do more with practical effects, but like I feel like that was not what was in vogue in the moment, and it was kind of just like, now look at what we can do.
It wasn't in vogue in the moment, but again, if you look at other supernatural thrillers of the time, Sixth Sense, Blair Witch Project.
Well, right. I meant in general, thinking more about things like The Phantom Menace,
Right.
where it's like not so much for horror, but just for movies in general.
Right.
Is that, there's this desire to really dip into computer graphics.
And of course,
computer
de Bont
effects.
saw that coming with Twister.
And Twister.
But
yeah.
I also have to say, I felt that, especially after watching Twister and also thinking about Speed, two movies that are not really contained. That it's like, and I also thought about Basic Instinct, and I thought about Die Hard and films that de Bont had shot as DP, and just thought, like, wow, it's like de Bont's camera. Wow, yeah, he made all those movies. I don't know. Now it's the kid in Last Action Hero. I'm in the movie. But I felt like his camera can't be contained. And that, like, he's trying to, like, do all the Jan de Bont movements, but this movie needs to be more, like,
it takes place inside of walls.
Slow. Yeah. I feel like it doesn't work well for him. And I also feel like in terms of the actors, it's kind of like, I think of the performances in Twister and Speed, and I think of the people giving those performances, and I'm like, oh, they probably didn't really need much acting direction in terms of what they were supposed to do. Whereas this movie, I think, relies a little bit more on that. I think it needs the performances, and I felt like Lily Taylor, she's an incredible actress. What's it called? I Shot Andy Warhol.
Right.
One of the best independent films of the 90s, and I just think that she was so out of her element in a film like this that it wasn't like, oh, well, Lily Taylor shouldn't have been in this movie because it's a big budget thriller. I think she needed someone she needed to be kind of directed, in that setting, in that context.
Sure.
You also have Owen Will. I mean, it's like this is also that time of, like, blockbuster movies trying to appeal to independent audiences by casting. Let's, like, Armageddon with Steve Buscemi and Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson.
But Owen Wilson was, with Bottle Rocket, he was an indie guy.
Right.
And
Luke he was
just in Rushmore, right?
What's that?
I was like, I almost
Luke
said Rushmore, but yeah, it's Luke.
Yeah, and Rushmore was 2000, I want to say. 98.
98.
Okay.
Same year as Armageddon.
Man, way off.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Owen Wilson hadn't yet really blown up as an actor. I mean, he was at this exact state, like, where it's like fourth build maybe. And that's where he kind of sat comfortably. And then, Royal Tenenbaums and I don't know.
Meet the Parents.
Meet the Parents. I mean, all the Ben Stiller, Wedding Crashers and all that kind of stuff. So those really launched him. And Luke Wilson from My Super Ex-Girlfriend, right?
Oh, yeah. Luke Wilson from My Super Ex-Girlfriend. Exactly. Oh God. I've actually never seen that movie. Who's that girl who's in it? The one who plays the lead.
Isn't that Uma Thurman?
Holy shit! It is Uma Thurman, isn't it?
That's why I brought it up before.
Oh right, yes, okay, got it. With the whole. Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know. I thought you were just pulling a random movie out. Okay.
No.
Got it.
No.
Got it.
Right. So anyway, going back to this movie, I see what you're saying. I mean, I think that no one really cares to watch this these days because it is kind of hard to watch. It's a little cringy at times, and I don't think that Lily Taylor really, I don't know, makes you want to, like, follow along on her journey so much.
No, Not really. I mean, like, you feel sympathy for her, but also like what her sister and her sister's like douchey husband,
Yeah.
like just kick her out of it. It just didn't make sense. The whole,
No.
it kind of started off not making sense.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, no, it just kind of launched into this whole thing where like their mother had just died and did not leave Lily Taylor's character the apartment where she lived in the will, and is getting kicked out by her shitty sister. Or is her brother, I don't know. Either way,
it's her
her
brother,
siblings.
her brother-in-law is not
Her brother-in-law.
helping.
I couldn't remember if Virginia Madsen was her sister or sister. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Like, I didn't really care so much about her quest to like make this all happen for the souls of these children. Yeah, I don't know.
It was kind of like convoluted. The highlights, by the way, are when Liam Neeson, like about maybe about an hour into the movie, or maybe a little bit before an hour into the movie, when Liam Neeson starts like realizing that things are going wrong, his acting, he turns it up. Sometimes he turns it up and he does things like this and he talks like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that's when I'm just like, I want everything at this level the whole time for this movie to be fun.
What's also perplexing about Liam Neeson's character is like he's doing this research study, but like he's hardly doing any typical research study things like conducting interviews about stuff, or like, I don't know.
No.
It's definitely, even if it was an insomnia research study situation, but that it isn't, but like if that's what the guys was, then I feel like there should be more structure to it. And also it's like, why have them do it in this enormous mansion? No one asked that question.
What yeah, I guess that didn't come up. Like I know in some versions, so there's the House on Haunted Hill.
Right.
Or the
Haunting of
Haunting of Hill House, I think, or House of Haunted Hill, which also came out in 99.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is it's this, and this one I watched. So I watched part of the 99 version, and it's got Jeffrey Rush, Famke Johnson, Taye Diggs, Chris Kattan is in it. It's like it's actually like it's more fun. And
Gotcha.
I mean, it's ridiculous, and there was an original with Vincent Price of this, and it's
of that one.
It's really, it's like, it's this wealthy guy, Jeffrey Rush. His character is like a theme park developer he's developing his name is Stephen Price. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Oh boy.
And it's like he and his wife just kind of like they hate each other, and they're just constantly like snapping at each other, and she wants to have this like birthday party, so he rents out like this haunted house, and he just invites these random people who have like, you know, they've got things to hide. And it's like if you make it the night, you get like $1 million.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like you have to stay the night, and I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was amusingly entertaining.
Well, what I found interesting, at least about The Haunting, is that there was a reason why Nell was, you know, essentially summoned there.
Right.
You know, the ghosts had essentially forged Liam Neeson's voice, I guess, and called her to draw her attention to the research study, which was like, okay, that's an interesting detail. And she was brought there to save the souls of these children and, you know, let them free from purgatory. And I feel like that's a really interesting concept. And I don't necessarily think that it was very well executed, but I like the idea of like a horror movie where there is a battle between the ghosts that, you know, we're not really figuring out or following like until the end, because it's like there's some of these apparitions that are guiding her and helping her, but then there are some that are clearly trying to like mess with her.
Oh, I mean, what? Like the her ceiling tries to eat her.
It's pretty wild.
As her bed traps her. It is.
Yeah.
This part, I actually picked up my phone and started recording on my phone because it was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Her scream is awful. Lily Taylor was not made to do a horror movie scream.
No, but I feel like she does have a good scared look. You don't think so?
Sure. Sure. I don't know.
But she's also like, she's not like so terrified. She's terrified until she kind of gets a sense of what's going on. She starts piecing things together, and then it's more of like a, you know, a bewilderment or just a sense of wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like her whole thing the whole time is there's something going on. Don't you believe me? Don't you believe me?
Yeah.
Don't you believe me?
Yeah.
That statue just vomited blood. Don't you believe me? Don't you believe me? Like, I know what I saw. I know what I saw. Don't you believe me?
Yeah.
I don't think it's her. I don't think it's her fault. I feel I just kind of get the sense that like this movie would have been better off directed by someone who maybe directing horror movies was more their thing.
Right. And I mean, I just want to mention one more thing. And you had mentioned that the writing of this is kind of to blame for what its faults were. And I have to agree, especially when it comes to the scene where it's towards the beginning of when they're all there. And then there's all of these noises coming from the rooms of Nell and Theo, and they don't know what it was. And then when they finally get to see Dr. Morrow, he mentioned something about like the pipes and like the water like making the noise, and it's like, I thought that you were the one that wanted to conduct a study on fear. Why would you let them know, like try to convince them that it wasn't anything scary? I don't know. Like I almost wish that there would have been that a moment of him explaining why he would mislead them like that. You know, that kind of goes against his thesis or whatever. I don't even know what his thesis is. That's what the problem is. It's like we're missing some things here.
Yeah, it's really just there as a device.
Yeah, but it's like they don't follow through on the device at all. Like you forget about it until he's like, I'm calling off the study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calling it off.
I'm calling it off. Yeah. So I don't know. I enjoyed watching it, and I have no regrets. So that's kind of where I am with it.
I mean, I have no regrets because I have no regrets because I feel like I knew what I was getting into, and it's not like I, paid money and made like, plans. It's not like I made plans to see this like I did Tree of Life on opening night.
Oh yeah.
No. There was no speech before it.
No. Or My Super Ex-Girlfriend, which I saw when I was living in Philadelphia. I had a roommate who worked at American Eagle, and they had this thing where they would give you movie passes if you bought like pairs of jeans, but he just had a stack of these passes, and we would just like go to see movies all the time. And one of them was My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
Oh. I had no idea.
I forgot about it until the words just came out of my mouth.
That's spectacular. Spectacular.
So my goal on this episode is to talk about My Super Ex-Girlfriend and Tree of Life more than we talked about The Haunting. And I feel like we're getting close.
Yeah, we're about at 50-50 right now, I think. Yeah, so anyway.
50, 25, 25.
So, all right. Okay, so let's talk about Jan de Bont a little bit here. Yeah, it's too bad because I feel like this kind of like I know he directed like a Tomb Raider movie after this.
Yeah, the second Tomb Raider movie.
Yeah, and I know I had
So, okay, let's talk. Okay, so we mentioned Twister and Speed before.
yeah.
You know, two of his early directing films that he directed. And what works about those movies is, like you were saying, they're like big and open. They take place like with fast moving cars, at least 50 miles per hour in some cases. And I think that there's also the real world aspect of those things where it's just like, you know, they're real people doing, interesting jobs, for sure, but it's still real people in extraordinary situations, which I guess you could consider The Happening is that, but it's
The
the
Haunting.
supernatural. Did I say something else?
You said The Happening.
Oh, The Happening.
I'd be more than happy to
Not
spend
The
an
Happening.
episode talking about that movie.
Oh, woof. No, pass.
Oh, have you seen it before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
So The Haunting, it's, it incorporates a supernatural element that I think really throws things. And, Twister involves an active nature, and, Speed involves somebody with bomb training. So, like, there's certainly things that are unfortunately, real life things. Whereas,
Real horror.
Yeah, they're real horror. Whereas, The Haunting is certainly,
CGI.
pretty extreme. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, like we said, the practical effects in those movies really made them work. And, yeah, I think that you're right. Like, horror is just not Jan de Bont's genre.
No. I mean, and look, not that he can't. It's kind of like thinking about the whole theory about, all right, like his camera should not be contained, and then you think about other movies that he's done, and you're like, well, okay, Hunt for Red October, but it's not like it only takes place on one submarine the entire time.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of the like external submarine movement in that. Die Hard.
Right.
Yes, it takes place in a building, but there is a lot of movement around that building. And around that building. So and then I mean Basic Instinct, we talked about the car chases.
There's the car chases, there's the scenes that are kind of on the shoreline. There's just like really big sprawling moments. Yeah, those car chases for sure. We certainly, and then the contrast between those and the moments where you're like inside rooms, whether it's the interrogation rooms, whether it's the room where Michael Douglas and Jean Triplehorn are, getting together, or if it's, the bedroom, like those are like the really highly intense situations when things get like closed in. And or the club where he goes dancing in his like V-neck sweater or whatever.
His American Eagle
his American
t-shirt.
Eagle that he got some free movie passes with and saw My Super Ex-Girlfriend. And Monster House. I saw Monster House too with that. I'm sure that there were plenty of others. Anyway, at the King of Prussia Mall, maybe? That sounds about right. Just saying.
Sure.
Just saying. Things are just coming to my memory right now. It's happening. Not the happening. And it's haunting.
It's haunting you, and
it's happening.
It's happening right now. It happened then. The King of Prussia Mall. Who knows?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah. So Dan, what would you do with The Haunting?
Well, I think that there's always a place for just like a big, like, kind of do it up, old fashioned haunted house movie. Now, I was thinking about that and thinking about like, okay, so of course I'm going to spend this episode talking about how the director was not the right director. who would be the right director for it. And of course, the first person I thought of, probably because I've been watching Crimson Peak on and off on HBO, is Guillermo del Toro. And then I thought, well, Guillermo del Toro has kind of like done this in his more like original way.
Right.
So I don't know that I would want to see him do it. I mean, like going back to people who have just done this type of film well, thinking about I thought about Peter Jackson, and then I kind of had like a little like this is the type of movie where I kind of want a less is more vibe. I'd be interested to see what like Denis Villeneuve would do with it. We're used to his films also being like very broad and very outdoors, but I feel like he could handle the kind of like, he's very good at a slow build tension, at least thinking about like Blade Runner 2049 and Arrival. So I could see him doing that. I could of course see it being like a good Jordan Peele project.
Yeah.
And there are, I'm sure, loads of filmmakers out there that I'm not thinking of who would do a fine job making this movie. I'd be interested to see what would like who would come on as a writer. I wonder, like maybe it's a Jordan Peele doesn't direct it, but like works on the script and produces,
right?
Type deal. But like I just think, I mean, it could also be, now it has been adapted into a play, or the original book was adapted into a play. So like there's that possibility. I was like, man, just make this a musical. Make it like some big like Phantom of the Opera. Like if you were going to make this version of The Haunting and put it on stage.
Yeah, I feel like there's too many elements to it that are just like a bummer. All of the like child labor and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's why a musical would be, I think, fitting, because at least they'd be singing children. And
if it's like super tongue in cheek, maybe, and designed to be like, I don't know, maybe there's a different type of way to do that. I don't know, because like. When you think about other movies with child labor, like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, child labor, and for some reason, like there's something about that where, granted, it's a highly problematic movie, but you see it in a and actually there's a lot of similarities with this. Now that I'm thinking about Temple of Doom and The Haunting.
Well, the whole thing with the stones that Lily Taylor has to find, and
if only.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was thinking that if it had to be remade, I wouldn't mind seeing, and this could go in a couple different directions, but something like stop motion animation would be really neat, because you could do a lot more with the effects in a really fun way. So like Henry Selick or somebody like that.
Of course, I feel like that's the first name that comes.
But if you're going for spooky stop motion,
like Coraline, like a Coraline type vibe,
right,
absolutely.
And then there's the opposite side of that, which is kind of like a Anomalisa style, psychological kind of torture movie. That style could be really interesting too, where and David Thewlis, of course, would be an excellent Dr. Morrow, maybe. I don't know.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And who's that girl who's the other voice in it? Is it Jennifer Jason Leigh?
Jennifer Jason Leigh would be good.
Yeah. So she could definitely be a Nell. Yeah. I mean, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jennifer, she's so good.
So good. Yeah, and still have Bruce Dern be Mr. Deadly.
What if it ain't broke? And if he's
totally.
still alive,
no, but my like real actual thought is like to lean into the fact that this is this like 1999 movie that has really gone forgotten, and a lot of it just has to do with like it just didn't land. Like nothing about it landed. I mean, Steven Spielberg allegedly took one look at the final cut and was like, this sucks.
Took his name off it.
He took his name off of it, yeah. And
The S in DreamWorks no longer stood for Spielberg. In Spielberg's SKG.
SKG. Yeah.
DreamWorks SKG.
Right, yeah. So it's, kind of like leaning into that and doing a mockumentary with the cast and all the filmmakers talking about this movie as if it's the greatest movie ever made, and like people are clamoring for a like making of documentary about it and like how this movie changed their lives. Yeah.
You would just cast, like, get a whole bunch, like, cast unknown actors as like the fan club of this movie. Like the really devoted...
I'm sure that this movie has its fans though. That's the funny thing.
I mean, but are they like, is there any type of fan site?
Do fan sites really exist anymore? I don't even know.
I mean, there must be. I would imagine, but I mean, like, are there any fan accounts? Like, there's so many like Instagram accounts that are like just devoted to random, very specific subjects.
Well, right. Dan, there's a lot of people out there,
Who
and I'm
are
willing
their
to bet.
fans? Who are these?
I'm
fans?
willing to bet that The Haunting is at least one person's favorite movie.
Owen Wilson.
Because people have favorite movies for all different reasons. It's not necessarily because they're amazing movies, but you never know.
Yeah, no, I would just hope like summer of '99, like there were other options. You know what there
don't need to be other options. It might have just like been the right thing for the right person just at that exact moment that made it their favorite movie. It might have been like, a first date movie that they went to with their, now long-term partner or something, like something like that, where it's like, it's a special movie for somebody.
I would be interested to know. I don't know that that's the audience we're reaching right now, but I would like to know who out there
if you had a first date with somebody to see The Haunting, regardless of the outcome of that date, email us, ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com. I'm tempted to give my personal phone number right now because I want to hear from you.
Yeah, or my super ex-girlfriend or Tree of Life.
Tree of Life.
Imagine
first
going
date
on a
movie
first
was
date to Tree of Life, and then yeah. Oh, the post-movie conversation's gonna be...
It's my favorite dinosaur movie.
Well, that's saying something. That is definitely... Oh,
it's
wow.
Not.
What if Jan de Bont had directed Jurassic Park 3? Imagine if Jan de Bont had directed a Jurassic Park movie. Would that have been good?
No.
You don't think that would have been good? You don't think that a Jan de Bont... Like, what if Jan de Bont had done The Lost World instead of Spielberg?
I'm trying to remember anything about The Lost World. 3 was with William H. Macy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
3.
I haven't seen them all in so long, it's hard to remember.
Lost World was with Vince Vaughn and Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore. Right.
Yes.
Actually,
kind of like 3.
I guess I could see how it could have happened with Jan de Bont.
I just feel like it would have been more fun.
Maybe. I mean, if because there's always going to be a chase. There's going to be a chase in a Jurassic Park movie.
Is like your camera is not contained. Far from it. So
that's true.
That's what I would like to see.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, Dan, why don't we tell everybody...
Who's the girl in Jurassic Park 3? Sorry, I feel like
that girl that's in Jurassic Park 3? I don't know, but that reminds me of the movie that we're talking about on our next episode.
Oh, could that be the reason why we keep saying who's that girl? Because the next movie that we're doing for the grand finale of January is a film that he was the cinematographer for. It was released in 1987, also around a lot of hype, also got pretty bad reviews, and it is Who's That Girl, starring Madonna and Griffin Dunne.
Yeah.
And
Griffin Dunne. Have we talked about Griffin Dunne on this podcast yet?
I mean, has After Hours not ever come up? I mean, whatever context.
Maybe it's come up, but we haven't covered that. After Hours is maybe my favorite Scorsese. And,
oh wow. Okay.
Why? Oh wow.
Well, no, not
What's so shocking about that?
No, there's nothing shocking. I'm just saying, like, your favorite. I guess like you're not really into mob movies, so
I'm not really into like mob movies or like super aggressive, like toxic masculinity movies. And this is one of those movies where it's just like tracking somebody on like the weirdest night of their life.
Yeah.
That's what it is, and I love it. It's
I love it.
weird. It's got some great character moments. You know, Terry Garr's awesome. Like it's a really solid.
We can't.
cast.
I actually do think we've had this conversation because I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I remember talking about how Catherine O'Hara is in it as well.
Right, Catherine O'Hara's in it.
But
yeah,
yes, at some point after Hours will happen.
Griffin Dunn, also of My Girl.
Yes.
He's the teacher.
Yes.
And yeah, he's fantastic. I am a big fan.
You ever seen King of Comedy?
You know, I haven't seen it.
Okay. I believe
I always think of putting it on. And I was like, eh.
I'm a big fan of that one. I mean, I'm a big Scorsese fan to begin with. And I've also seen a lot of the kind of forgotten Scorsese films, like Kundun, saw that in the theater.
Oh,
so, and he's got actually the only Scorsese movie off the top of my head that I really didn't like was Gangs of New York.
Mine is the only movie I ever walked out of.
Hugo?
Do you know what that is? Hugo.
Which I'm a big fan of.
I walked out. I could not. I just couldn't.
To each their own. Yeah, Hugo really was a divisive. Like, people either really, really liked it or really, really did not like it.
Was that Asa Butterfield?
Yes.
Interesting.
Chloe Grace Moretz, Ben Kingsley, Sacha Baron
It's
Cohen.
funny because, like, as we're talking about like the cast of it, I keep on thinking like, how can I get in a Who's That Girl? But no, we've already done that.
I know. I thought about that too. But yeah. So, but I'm excited because Who's That Girl was an old like HBO favorite. It
was on TV all the time. We'll talk about that in the next episode.
Excited about that. So
yeah. Email us ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com. Check out our link tree. It's in this episode's description. I am excited to get to revisit Who's That Girl for the first time in a long time.
It's been a while. I have some very vivid memories of it though.
Do you really? Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, as you are, I'm like trying to think of something right now. As you are running through the gigantic cavernous hallways of Hill House, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.